really here for, and that is the Classified Foreign Visit Process webinar. But I have to give you just a little background before we get started. This is Steve's second Learn at Lunch webinar for our Industrial Security series. He did the Technology Control Plan webinar in February. And you know, he did such a great job that we thought we'd bring him back for a return engagement. So this afternoon, Steve's going to spend the next 30 minutes or so telling us everything we always wanted to know about international visits and the classified visit process, but we're afraid to ask. So it's with great pleasure that I present for the second time on our webinar airwaves, Mr. Steve Raymond. Steve?
Thanks, Christine, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Steve Raymond, and I'm currently an instructor on the Industrial Security team here at CDSE. Prior to my coming to CDSE in February of 2009, I was an industrial security representative in a capital region for over 20 years. U.S. contractors and foreign entities, government or commercial, often find it necessary to visit one another's locations during classified contract performance. In order to visit and be able to access classified information, the contractors and foreign entities must send their requests for visits through their respective government channels to the entity being visited. During today's presentation, I'm going to speak to you about international visits and the classified visit process. First, we're going to look at foreign visit system, the visit approval process, and types of visits. But before we get started with that, I'm going to ask Linda to pull up our first poll question.
All right, Steve, this is our first poll. Do you know where in the NISPOM you can find information on international visits and control of foreign nationals? Go ahead and type your answer at the bottom of the chat pod that I pulled over. I see we've got some folks saying Chapter 10, Section 5. It looks like it's pretty unanimous with Chapter 10, Section 5. Let me give a few more folks a chance to answer. And all right, Steve, how'd they do?
Well, I'm very impressed. They did great. Let's go to the next slide, Christine. When a U.S. cleared contractor enters into a contract or agreement with a foreign government or company, it may be necessary for representatives of both to visit one another's location. In order for these visits to be accomplished, visit requests must be sent through appropriate government channels. Chapter 10, Section 5 of the NISPOM addresses international visits and the control of foreign nationals. This section describes the procedures the United States and foreign governments have established to control international visits to their organizations and cleared contractors. So that's the answer to our first poll question. First, I'm going to discuss the types and purposes of international visits. The NISPOM Section 5, Paragraph 10.507 states that requests for visits by foreign nationals to U.S. contractor facilities that will involve the disclosure of classified information, unclassified information related to U.S. government classified program, or a visit to a plant such as a manufacturing facility must be processed through the sponsoring foreign government to the U.S. government agency for approval. Keep in mind that visit requests by foreign nationals that involve only commercial programs and unrelated classified information may be submitted directly to the contractor. In this case, it is the responsibility of the contractor to ensure that the proper export authorization has been obtained if required. Next slide, please, Chris. Section 10.502 of the NISPOM identifies three types of international visits. The one-time visit. This type of visit, which is for a specific purpose, is for a single day or short-term occasion, normally less than 30 days. The recurring visit. This is an intermittent recurring visit over a specified period of time, normally up to 1 year. It would be in support of a government-approved arrangement such as an agreement, contract, or license. Then there's the extended visit. This is a single visit for an extended time, normally up to 1 year, in support of an agreement, contract, or license. Now, there is an emergency visit. Before we go to that slide, I want Linda to pull up our second poll question.
Okay, here's our second poll. Again, respond in the chat box. When might someone need to request an emergency visit? Got some folks typing. Some our first answers. Government required, lack of planning. All right. I hear a never. When required by the foreign government, when there's an RFP. The airliner search. They forget to request in time the 30 calendar days plus the 5 business days when government requires. Okay. When they are requested to participate in an overseas project, could cause serious jeopardy to the contract. Attendance at a meeting required by contract performance. When less than 30 days to process. Manufacturing problems. Okay, we've got some great answers here, Steve. All right. Give them another second to add a few more. Typically, in response to a last-minute emergency that's come up requiring scene collaboration, when the government requires it, during emergency when planning is not possible. Request for a demo. All right. Okay, Steve, how'd they do?
They did great. Chris, can you pull up the next slide? The emergency request for a visit is addressed in Section 10503 of the NISPOM. To qualify as an emergency visit, the visit must relate to a specific government-approved contract, international agreement, or announced request for proposal, and failure to make the visit could reasonably be expected to seriously jeopardize performance on the contract or program or result in the loss of a contract opportunity. Emergency visits are approved as a single, one-time visit and must pertain to a classified visit. Each country must be permitted a minimum of 5 days for processing an emergency visit request. Next slide, please, Chris. Now let's talk about incoming foreign visitors. Remember, Section 10507 of the NISPOM states that requests for visits by foreign nationals to U.S. contractor facilities that will involve the disclosure of classified information, unclassified information related to a U.S. government classified program, or plant visit must be processed through the sponsoring foreign government to the U.S. government agency for approval. The request will be processed through the foreign visit system. The Department of Defense Directive 5230.20 sets forth the standards applying to all foreign nationals visiting or assigned to DoD components or cleared contractor facilities. This directive establishes the International Visit Program to control and facilitate visits by foreign persons to DoD components and cleared defense contractors. The Defense Intelligence Agency coordinates the International Visit Program for the Department of Defense. Foreign nationals shall have access to classified information at the DoD component or cleared contractor facility only if they are officially sponsored by their government or an international organization such as NATO, and a security assurance is provided. And you can see the link in that slide will take you to the DoD directive. Chris, next slide. In accordance with DoD Directive 5230.20, requests for official visits within the United States shall be submitted through the sponsoring government's embassy in Washington, D.C., or by the sponsoring international organization through the foreign visit system. The foreign visit request is submitted electronically through the automated system that has been provided by DIA to foreign embassies. When the request is submitted, the foreign government is certifying that all information on the visit request is correct, particularly the access eligibility level of the visitor. The request could be submitted in writing, but most embassies are linked by computer to the Defense Visit Office through the automated foreign visit system. This system automatically routes the visit request to the DoD Defense Visit Office into one of 4 organizations: Army, Navy, Air Force, or the Defense Intelligence Agency. The receiving visit office staffs the request, then renders a decision regarding the proposed visit and notifies the U.S. contractor via email. Now, Linda, I think this is an opportunity for our third poll question.
All right, let me pull over the chat response here. Poll 3. There are 3 different approval levels for foreign visits. The question is, can the U.S. deny a visit to prevent a foreigner from coming to a facility? Can the U.S. deny a visit to prevent a foreigner from coming to a facility? Oh, we have a lot of yeses. Remember to read the question carefully. To prevent the foreigner from coming to a facility. Oh, we have a no. A couple no's. Oh, a few more no's. Still yes is the overwhelming answer. Now people, oh, it depends. So my favorite answer. All right, well, it looks like it's mostly yes. Steve, is that the right answer?
Yeah, we've got a lot, and I like the one that says it depends. Christine, can we have the next slide? The appropriate visit officer will render one of three decisions. The visit is approved. When the cognizant U.S. government agency approves a visit, the notification of approval will contain instructions on the level and scope of the classified and unclassified information authorized for disclosure, as well as any limitations. Final acceptance of the visit is subject to the concurrence of the contractor, who will notify the U.S. government agency when a visit is not desired. Government approval constitutes an exemption to the export licensing provisions of the ITAR. Let me repeat that. Government approval constitutes an exemption to the export licensing provisions of the ITAR. What does this mean? The visitor can have access to the information identified in the notification of approval. An export license is not required. Now let's stop here for a moment. The ITAR, or International Traffic in Arms Regulation, governs the export of classified and unclassified defense articles and services. And also keep in mind that the export or transfer of a defense article or service can take place without the article or service ever leaving the United States. Verbal or visual disclosure can take place within the United States. If the proper export license is not in place, an export violation will occur. Second, the visit can be denied. If the U.S. government agency does not approve the disclosure of the information related to the proposed visit, it will deny the visit request. The requesting government and the contractor to be visited will be advised of the reason for the denial. The visit can be completed, but only public domain information may be released. So the visit can be completed. It's not being denied by the government, but only public domain information may be released. And number three, we have the non-sponsorship. The U.S. government will decline to render a decision on a visit request that is not in support of a U.S. government program. A declination notice indicating that the visit is not government-sponsored is furnished to the requesting foreign government with an information copy to the U.S. contractor to be visited. The declination notice does not prevent the visit, provided the contractor has or obtains an export authorization for the information involved. If classified information is involved, the contractor must be notified that the requesting foreign government has provided required security assurance of the proposed visitor to the U.S. government agency in the original visit request. It is the responsibility of the contractor to consult the applicable export regulations to determine licensing requirements. Chris, can we have the next slide? Prior to the arrival of the foreign visitor to your facility, you must have established procedures to ensure that the visitor or visitors are not afforded access to classified information and other export control technical data except as authorized by the approved visit request. Foreign visitors are not to be given custody of classified material except when they are acting as official couriers of their government and the Cognizant Security Authority has authorized the transfer. You, the contractor, must maintain a record of foreign visitors when the visit involves access to classified information. These records are to be maintained for 1 year in accordance with the NISPOM. However, the ITAR requires that the records be retained for 5 years. If you are going to have long-term visitors, that you will need to implement a technology control plan. For further information regarding a technology control plan, see the link on the Contracts and Resources slide at the end of this presentation. And now, Linda, I think we'll have our fourth and last poll question.
All right, this poll is a little bit different. You actually get to select on the slide. It is a true-false. The DSS International Division will only process visit requests to non-U.S. sites. It will not process requests to U.S. embassies, U.S. military sites, or U.S. ships docked overseas. True or false? We have true. Let me broadcast the results here. We have 70 true, 25 false. Again, the question is true or false. DSS International Division will only process visit requests to non-U.S. sites. For example, U.S. embassies. They will not do U.S. embassies, U.S. military sites, or U.S. ships docked overseas. Is it true or false? And we have, looks like true is winning out here on this one, Steve, so I'm going to let you give us the result.
Chris, can we have the next slide? To this point, I have spoken about the foreign visit system and the process for incoming foreign visitors to contract facilities. What about the processing of outgoing classified visits conducted by U.S. cleared contractor personnel? The DSS International Division processes outgoing visit requests for cleared contractor personnel. It should be noted here that the International Division will only process visit requests to non-U.S. sites. It will not process requests to U.S. embassies, U.S. military sites, or U.S. ships docked overseas. So we have the answer to our poll question, which is true. The DSS International Division will verify the clearance information for all persons on the visit request and ensure that the form is completed accurately. The company FSO will receive a confirmation of receipt via fax should the visit request be accepted for processing. DSS International Division will forward the request to the U.S. Embassy in the applicable country. The U.S. Embassy will process and forward the visit request to the appropriate foreign government office for that country. The foreign government office will either reject the request or forward an approval to the site to be visited. 5 days processing time should be allowed for by the International Division. Next slide, please, Chris. Each country has specific lead time requirements for processing a visit request. For example, a contractor visiting Australia under a visit requiring access to classified information would need to allow for 5 days processing time by the DSS International Division and 30 days processing time by the Australian government. What does this mean? Give yourself plenty of time. More detailed information regarding specific country lead times can be found in Appendix B of the NISPOM. Next slide, please, Chris. There is a foreign visit request form to be used for outgoing international visits. This form, which is pictured on this slide, is designated as U-1201. It can be found in the FSO Toolkit International tab under Outgoing International Visits. In addition to the form, you will also find instructions, hints, and a sample form already completed to serve as a guide. There are specific forms for Canada, Germany, and Saudi Arabia that are also found under the Outgoing International Visits tab. Well, we're at the end of my presentation, so let me summarize what I have discussed. First, Chapter 10, Section 5 of the NISPOM addresses international visits and the control of foreign nationals. Visit requests by foreign nationals to U.S. contractor facilities that involve the disclosure of classified information, unclassified information related to a classified contract, or a plant visit must be processed through the sponsoring foreign government to the U.S. government agency for approval. The types of international visits are the one-time visit, the recurring visit, and the extended visit. In special circumstances, an emergency visit can be approved. 2. Processing the incoming foreign visit request. It's processed through the foreign visit system. DoD Directive 5230.20 sets the standards applying to all foreign nationals visiting DoD components or cleared contractor facilities. This directive establishes the International Visit Program, which is coordinated by the Defense Intelligence Agency. The foreign visit request is submitted electronically through an automated system that has been provided by the Defense Intelligence Agency to foreign embassies. The system routes the request to one of 4 organizations within the DoD Defense Visit Office, the Army, Navy, Air Force, or DIA. The receiving office will render one of 3 decisions: approval, denial, or non-sponsorship. Prior to the visit, the contractor must establish procedures to ensure that the visitor or visitors are not given access to any information not authorized by the approved visit request. The contractor must maintain a record of foreign visitors when the visit involves access to classified information. And 3, the processing of the outgoing visit request for cleared U.S. contractors. The DSS International Division processes outgoing visit requests for cleared contractor personnel visiting non-U.S. sites. The International Division forwards the visit request to the U.S. Embassy in the applicable country where it will be processed and forwarded to the appropriate foreign government office. The foreign government office will reject the request or forward an approval to the site to be visited. A 5-day processing time should be allowed for by the International Division. Every country has a specific lead time requirement for processing an incoming visit request. The International Division will not process requests to U.S. embassies, U.S. military sites or U.S. ships. Well, I've discussed a lot of information today. Remember the resources that you have available to you, the NISPOM, the Episode Toolkit, and your DSS Industrial Security Representative. That does it about for me. To wrap up the webinar, let's turn it back over to Chris.
Thanks, Steve. That was a lot of information on an important topic that we really don't think about until our company either has the need to send someone to on a foreign classified visit or to receive foreign classified visitors at our U.S. company. We do have a few minutes left, so let's see if we can answer a couple of questions that we've gotten in. So Steve, if you'll help me out here, I'll read the question, and if you can provide us the answer. The first question that came in was if a cleared person or individual needs to visit a foreign entity as part of their normal job or business, let's say they're a part of the sales staff and have to go overseas, is there any reporting requirement for the individual if the nature of the visit is completely unclassified?
Remember, the NISPOM does not have a reporting requirement for foreign travel. Section 130B of the NISPOM addresses the reporting of suspicious contacts. However, I would strongly recommend to an FSO that they institute a foreign travel briefing program for all of their employees traveling overseas, whether the purpose of the travel is classified or unclassified.
All right. The next one is if foreign nationals are coming to your company just to find out what your company does and it's not tied to a government contract, is an unclassified visit request still required?
If you are going to have a foreign national visit your facility and the visit does not involve a government contract or program, a visit request would not be required. However, keep in mind that any personnel in your facility meeting with a visitor must be aware of export requirements covering any information they might discuss with a visitor. Remember, an export can take place through verbal and visual exchanges. There are also other areas to consider when you have foreign visitors. Just with any visitor, their access must be controlled. And there are possible CI implications as well. So you need to contact your IS rep and counterintelligence special agent attached to the field office that your facility is assigned to.
Okay, and another one that came in is, so should my company be following the NISPOM or ITAR requirements when it comes to these classified foreign visits?
Well, your company always follows the requirements of the NISPOM that apply to your company. In the case of the classified visits by foreigners, we talked about the records that have to be maintained. The NISPOM says you'll maintain those for a year. The ITAR says you'll maintain those for 5 years. Bottom line, you always follow what the NISPOM says, and in addition, the ITAR says you must maintain those records for 5 years.
The answer to these questions and any that came in that we didn't have time to answer, couldn't answer here today, on our archive webinar page on our CDSE site. So if you didn't get an answer to your question this afternoon, be sure maybe in the next week or so. We have to send those through our PAO process, but we'll get them there as soon as we can. Thank you, Steve. That was a good job, and that's why we keep bringing you back to do these. So don't be surprised if you see Steve's name on a future Industrial Security Learn at Lunch webinar. Let's see what else we have for you here. And we'd like to leave you with our contact and webinar resource information. One last thing I'd like to see if you could do for us is when you get the thank you email from us within the next day or two, if you'd please take a moment to fill out our webinar survey. There will be a link in that email. And the survey is very short, but the information is very important to us that you provide and is greatly appreciated. So if you'll just spend a moment or two to help us out, it helps us to continue to improve these webinars for all of us. On behalf of CDSE, I'd like to thank you again for spending a part of your day with us. We know how busy you all are and hope you find this 30-minute training well worth your while. That about wraps it up. We hope we've helped to kick your summer off to a great start. Enjoy what's left of today. Remember to always wear sunscreen, and don't ever miss an opportunity to learn at lunch. See y'all next time. Take care. Bye-bye.